Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about smart materials, and we're going to be exploring that whole idea of what do we do with the leftover scrap pieces that come off of the smart materials. So as promised, I told you I would bring a tutorial about this because when you look at smart materials, you will see that you have a built-in mat with them. That's this white part. It has a built-in thicker backing. This allows you to actually load in the vinyl to the machine without placing it on a mat. So it's really, really neat because you can do larger than mat cutting. I have a video I will put up in the link below or a link above about how I create a 30-inch sign with continuous cutting, and I didn't need a mat. I just fed it through the whole time. So that's all really fun, but then what happens when you start cutting off the scrap pieces that you don't use and they are a little bit smaller? Obviously, when we go to put this into the machine, you can't feed this in matless, even though it still has the capabilities of being a matless material. It's too small. So what do we do? Is this just a lost cause? Are we wasting material at this point? I didn't really know I had this question until I started using my machine, and then I started wondering about all the little pieces that were coming off because I started thinking, well, these aren't really big enough to refeed through. So we're going to explore how we can still use all these little pieces that come off of our smart vinyl and how we do not have to throw them away. We can still use them to make some beautiful projects. So I will go through what we're going to be using in the tutorial today just so that you guys can get your craft table started as well. Obviously, use any scrap materials that you have from your smart materials. So anything that you have left over from your initial cuts, always cut those off, because if you have any surrounding areas, you can always reuse those, and I will show you how in this video. In this video, we're going to be doing a cute little coffee mug, so I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So you'll need a coffee mug, some scrap material, a scraping tool and scissors, a weeding tool, some transfer tape. This is the new Cricut transfer tape that was released when the Joy came out. It is not the strong grip one, it's just the one that doesn't say strong grip on it. So that's the one. I will link it below. I initially did not like Cricut transfer tape in general, but this one I decided to pick up because it was a really good price when the launch came out, and I was really impressed. So I'm telling you, this was actually, it surprised me. So I think I'll buy some more of this. It was really nice to work with. You're also going to need a measuring tape because we're going to be measuring the space that we're going to be working with. And then we're also going to be using the green Cricut mat. This came with the Joy. So if you have purchased your Joy, don't worry, they have a mat to get you started. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to measure the space we have to work with. It looks like I would probably want to keep my design no more than, I would say, 3 inches, and then I would want it no bigger than about 1.5. Let's say 1.5 by 3. Okay, let's pop into Design Space, and we are going to get our design all ready to go. I'll show you how I size that and how I do everything in Design Space to work with the Joy. Again, everything is buttonless on this machine, so everything will be controlled by your device. So I'll walk you through that. If you have not already subscribed, make sure you do so. There have been a lot of fun things on the channel this week with the Cricut Joy. So if you are preparing to purchase one, or you're just curious about what it can do because you're trying to either talk yourself in or out of getting one, then make sure you look at those previous materials. I do have a Cricut Joy playlist that you can watch, and make sure you're all subscribed because Easter's coming up and we are bringing some fun things to the channel. All right, let's hop into Design Space. Okay, here we are in Cricut Design Space, and I'm going to go over here to the 5th button down on the left. It's this T box, and it is a text box. So I'm going to add my text here. If you would instead like to add an image and create a little image for your text and explore all of the pre-made images, you can click this 4th button down on the left. If you click it here, then you can go through and just explore all. These are all the Easter ones that I had been using, but you can just look at all of the images. There are endless images and things you can be doing with that. I'm going to hit cancel, and I'm going to again work with a text. So I'm going to be typing out the word pray with a period, and I am going to use the font After Grows, and I believe you can get this on fontbundles.com, and it was a free download. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, as you can see, it's not it's not all connected. It is intended to be a cursive text, but it doesn't really look great as is. So what you do is you can come up here. Everything is one layer at this point. What you're going to do is you're going to come up to this second button, and it is called Ungroup, and you'll just click that. And this allows each little letter to be a standalone letter at this point. So now what you can do is you can just manually drag over your letters just like this. And you can connect them and place them anywhere you want. And then I'll bring this little period over. Okay, and then I am going to go ahead and select everything. Now, if I don't select everything, then the Cricut will actually cut these out individually, and we would have to reconnect them on the coffee mug, and that would just be a nightmare. So what we want to do is we want to have this cut all together just seamlessly. So I'll go down here and I will click Weld. Now, if you'll notice the little A filled in, if that happens to you, if any of the circle or circular middles fill in, go ahead and just click the undo button right away. And then what that means is that a little piece of your, like your R right here has gotten too far into the middle of that A, and it's just filling it in. So you just kind of have to rearrange a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and reselect that and hit Weld. Okay. I'm going to actually see if I can get that A a little bit closer though, because I don't really love that. Let's see if we can trick it to just doing that. Let's see. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to size this word. Remember when I sized my coffee cup, I said I didn't want it to be any bigger than 3 inches. And I didn't want it to be any longer than 1.5. So I like that it's going to be like a little small. And I also like that this is a little bit more of a thick font, because this will work a little bit better on a smaller size scale project. So let me do right about there. So I'm at 2.945 for my length, so just a hair under 3 inches, which will be perfect. And then I am at just below 1 inch on my length. That's perfect. I am going to duplicate this, and I'll tell you why. I would like to put this on both the front and the back of my mug. That way, when I am sipping my coffee, I can look at the the design, and also on the other side, whoever's joining me can see that my coffee mug has a design on it as well. So you can either place yours on one side or the other, or you can place them on both. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go over here and hit duplicate. I do this after I size my design. That way, once I hit duplicate, they are both exactly the same size. Now what I'll do is I'll go over here. I will see that the Cricut Joy is already selected right here. If you are working with any other machine, you can go with the Cricut Maker or the Cricut Explorer. And now I'm going to go ahead and click Make It. So now it's going to ask me what I intend to do with my materials and how I'm going to load them in the machine. Again, if you have the full-size Smart Materials, you can go ahead and just load without a mat. I am going to be using a mat because I have smaller materials. They're still Smart Materials, but they're too small to just auto load by themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the mat, and I will click Done. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Continue. And now it's just locating my Cricut Joy, and then I can go ahead and select the material that I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using the Smart Vinyl Permanent, so I'm going ahead and click that one, and then it's going to prompt me to go ahead and load my mat. Once I load my mat, this little guy, I can click the Go button, and then this little guy will pop up down here, and I can go ahead and click Go. Any buttons that you're going to be selecting and pushing are all going to be on the screen, so on your device. There are no buttons on the Cricut Joy. All right, let's go ahead and get our mat loaded, and I'll show you how you should do that, a couple tips and tricks for loading Smart Materials on a mat, and then we'll get everything cutted out. Okay, now we're going to load our mat. Full disclosure, after I got out of Design Space and was getting ready to load my mat, I kind of had second thoughts about the size of my design, so I did end up going back and making it smaller. I now have my length at 2.25 instead of 3 inches. So I just wanted to let you know everything is going to be a little bit smaller if you're going to make the same project on your own. Go ahead and size that down to 2.25 in length. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and load my Smart Material. It's a little hard to see what I'm going to do at this point with the white, so I'm just going to look at the blue real quick with you and then end up working with the white. So once loading your Smart Material on your mat, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that this side with the white strip on it, again, it will be on this too, but it's just hard to see. The side of the white strip on it, I would place away from the side that's going to be cutting. So I wouldn't put it up in your on this side at all. I'd face it this way because then your design is always going to be cutting over here. If you do end up placing it this way, you could end up having your design cut off onto that mat, and then it wouldn't look right. If you end up doing it this way, you can always go into Design Space and just kind of drag those pieces on the cutting mat. That way it's going to fit in the area where there's actually vinyl on it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I am going to load my mat. And again, I'm using that Smart Material. This has the little built-in mat on it, but I can actually place this on a mat as well. So I'm breathing a little bit better, you guys, because when I was cutting off my scrap pieces from my project from the Smart Vinyl, I was all of a sudden thinking, oh my gosh, are these all going to waste? Am I going to be able to use these? But no, they're not. So watch this, you guys. So now what we're going to do is this auto loads. So what you're going to do is you're just going to place the mat against the wheels and it will automatically pull it in. Just like that. Now it's going to just make sure my mat is aligned. It's just scanning it to make sure everything is in there as it should be. And then it's going to prompt me to hit go right on my screen. So I'm going to do that. And then everything will get cutting out. Now while that's cutting, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of rubbing alcohol on my coffee cup. Now why I'm doing this is because this coffee cup has been at the store, it's been in a bag, it's handled a lot of hands before this design. So there's oils from hands, there's dust from the store, there's just all kinds of things. So we want to make sure that we have a very nice clean surface that's all prepped and ready. This will just help the vinyl stick a little bit better and give it a really, really smooth and ideal surface to lay the vinyl down on. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and set this up and let it dry. Again, I'm doing both sides, so I'm going to prep both sides. So I can just discard this now, and now I can just go ahead and click unload on my screen, and the Joy unloads. And it looks wonderful. Okay, I'm really glad I sized that down. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click finish, and I'm just going to double check the measurements for you guys. Okay, 2.25 in length by 0.75, so 3/4 of an inch in height. Those are the final measurements. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my mat over, and I'm going to gently peel the mat away from the vinyl. That way the vinyl doesn't roll up. And then I can go ahead and just put my mat away. All right, so now what I can do is I can cut away my scrap materials. So now I have even more leftover pieces that I can still use from the Smart Materials. So I'm just going to cut those away. I love keeping my scraps because there's always a need for more vinyl. Am I right? Okay, so again, leaving this, putting this in my scrap bin because I can use this again. All right, let's get to weeding this project. Okay, so now I'm just going to begin weeding this, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pierce the corner and just grab that top layer of vinyl and just start peeling. Now, I apologize, it's really hard to see on the white on white Smart Vinyl because the backing is also white, and obviously the vinyl is also white, so just bear with me. What I'm doing is I'll just walk through it even though it's pretty much impossible to see. I am going to just weed out the middle of the letters, and there we go. It's been a lot easier. Okay, so the middles are just all coming off, and I'm collecting those scrap pieces. This has been such a fun week playing with the Joy. I've had a lot of fun. I've just been really enjoying my time. It's always really exciting just to have a new little, machine at your table, and I know a lot of you are waiting for your machines to arrive. I know a lot of you have told me you purchased it and are patiently waiting, you know, by your mailbox for that mailman to come. I bet you guys are getting so excited. So, and if you haven't purchased it, make sure you also know that you can create this on any machine, so it's just fine. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, oh, let me put the transfer tape on first, actually. So again, this is the regular grip. I don't believe it says regular on the actual box, but just know that this is not the one that says strong grip. Okay, so I'm just going to cut a little bit of this off, or I'm sorry, I'm going to peel a little bit of this up and get this all, come on guy, ready to go on top. So now the transfer tape is what is going to take the vinyl off of the carrier sheet and place it onto the mug. What I really like about this transfer tape is it has the grid lines on it, which is super helpful because it helps me when it's time to place my design on my project. Just the grid lines really, really help that out. Okay, so let me get this all cut and then you guys will be able to finally see the design. Okay, so I'm just going to cut right, oh, let me actually scrape both of these down. The scraping part is just allowing that vinyl to come up. I'm going to pull these up together before cutting them apart. And always utilize your scraping tool if your design is needing a little bit of help. Sometimes it initially needs a little bit of help just coming off of the carrier sheet. So just kind of help nudge that along with your tool. Okay. And the great thing about cursive text is that once you get it started, it's usually pretty easy to continue pulling off because they are all connected. But also just be aware that you should be very careful because if you accidentally rip one letter, usually come all, because they're all connected. So, okay. Slowly taking that off. Okay. Looks great. Now you guys can see the design. How cute did that turn out? I think this size turned out a lot better than my initial sizing did. So I'm just going to cut these apart, being careful not to cut any of my letters, and I'll just set one to the side. So I'm going to be placing one on each side, so I'll go one by one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of help on this because if I don't have any help, what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to try to hold the mug with one hand while I'm trying to size and place my design with the other. It just makes it really, really difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a roll of vinyl. So yes, it's Christmas vinyl. I got a little crazy on Cricut.com the other day because there was a sale. I believe there was a sale, and yeah, so I'm buying Christmas in March, you guys. Okay, so by placing that under the handle of the mug, that just allows the mug to stay steady so I can use two hands to apply my design. So now I'm going to just go ahead and lay that in the middle the best that I can. And just lay it down. Now my mug has a very flat surface going this way. If you have a mug that is more curved in nature, be sure to check out the video that I have linked up here because I have a video all about placing vinyl on curved surfaces, and there's a trick that you should do before placing it down that will allow your vinyl to be placed down perfectly the first time without any fuss. So make sure if your cup isn't just like mine and it's more curvy, check out that video. It'll be very helpful. Now I'm just going to initially rub this design down with my finger. I'm going to take my scraping tool and just scrape. I love the pop of the white on the teal. It just looks so good. And now I can just pull that transfer tape off. And then you can just look and see if you have any bubbles. If you do, you can either use your fingernail or your scraper tool just to push them out. And there's the first side. I love how that looks. It looks so cute. Okay, so now I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. placing it in the center the best I can. Let's see, where is the actual center? Oops. Okay, so it's roughly around here. Okay. And then just rubbing it with my finger first, then with the scraper tool second. And it's all done. Now remember, you cannot go ahead and put coffee in this right away. What you're going to want to do is you're just going to want to set your mug aside. You're going to want it just to sit for about 2 days. And I know that's going to be a patience tester because you have such a cute mug now and you're probably going to want to just show it off. But let it sit for 2 days. It just helps the vinyl just really cure onto the mug, and then it will be ready to go. I would also recommend, and it is recommended, that you do not dishwasher, put these through the dishwasher, and that you hand wash only and don't place in the microwave. So those are all some great tips for just keeping your vinyl really, really good. Okay, so it's all done. How great does that look? I hope you guys love that. And again, this was all from just leftover pieces of smart vinyl. So those pieces of smart vinyl that you were kind of thinking, okay, great, now I can't do anything with them because they're too small to fit through. Now you can just put them on your mat. Make sure that you select the smart vinyl option and on the mat in Design Space, just like I did, just follow the steps, and then you'll be able to reuse those materials and create something that was originally going to be just thrown away. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this tutorial, please make sure to give me a thumbs up, and I would love to have you as a subscriber so you guys can see what is going to be coming to my channel this spring. Have a wonderful weekend!